welcome to a new video. We are currently silaging and cutting all of the barley. Now this is just a 200-acre piece, I believe, that I'm doing the opening round on. You can see that it's still really green, and the heads in this field aren't really full, but if you noticed, the sky is darkening pretty much all the way south of us, and there's a pretty big chance of rain in the forecast, so we're trying to get ahead a little bit so that I don't have to cut tomorrow when it's still really wet, because it makes the cutting job really difficult. So I'm just getting a head start on that right now. We've been cutting since 7 o'clock, or chopping. I started at 7:30 because I did some opening rounds last night. But yeah, I'm not gonna say how it's going, because if I do say how it's going, I'm gonna jinx it. Tuesday, we're on our second day of silaging. It's like 7:45 in the evening. We've been cutting all day, and so far it's been okay. I'm like, I want to say 20 swaths ahead, just because the crop right now is actually moist enough that it needs to dry out a little bit before it goes into the pit, just because if you put it into the pit too wet, then it will rot instead of ferment, and obviously that's not good because you can't feed rotten feed to the cows. And it also makes for a very difficult packing job, because if there's more moisture, then it's more slippery, so consequently it's also more slippery if it's too dry. So we need to have that perfect moisture mark, and then it'll be really good feed. So we're on one of our 200-acre pieces right now. These low spots are really thick, and I'm cutting about 3/4 of the header, so I'm not using a full swath right now, just because my brother, who is chopping, can't put a crop this heavy through the chopper when I'm cutting a full swath. It's just too thick. We had some problems with that this morning, actually. I couldn't get the swath smooth. It was really bumpy. We actually had a little bit of rain this morning too, which didn't help, but it's dry now. It's been sunny since like 2 p.m. I want to say, and I've got automatic steering also. Side note, don't worry, I can do hands-free. But yeah, so we had a little bit of trouble earlier today, but it's been resolved now. I had a little bit of trouble, not we, but you know what I mean. So yeah, and later tonight there's also a chance of rain or thunderstorms, so that's the reason why I'm cutting so far ahead as well. It's because the wetter a field is, the harder it is for me to cut nicely. It'll plug up, it'll create lumps in the swath, it'll make it really hard for my brother, who's chopping, to chop at a good pace. So we've got 3 silage trucks going right now, so if we can't chop at a good pace, then we've got a truck, maybe even 2, waiting in line to be filled, because he's not able to get the crop chopped up fast enough to fill a truck fast enough to keep the line going. So that's also a really big reason why it's so important to have a smooth swath. And yeah, that's about it right now. Hopefully it's not too wet tomorrow morning. But again, the reason why I'm cutting ahead is so that I don't have to start at the same time as the chopper and the trucks, because then I can wait for the field to dry out somewhat before I start cutting again. And that will allow me to cut better and have a better quality swath. So yeah, that's what we're looking at. There's a cloud percolating in the north over there. You can see it's a little bit darker on the horizon there. Maybe not so much on camera, but I can see it in person. So 90% chance of showers, I think it is. So I don't think we're going to be able to avoid that. So back at it again today. It's the third day of silaging. Wednesday. Yeah, it's Wednesday. Hard to keep track of the day sometimes because it all starts to blur together. But we got a little bit of rain last night. Nothing too major to keep us from starting chopping again at 7. I started cutting at about 10:30 just so that they could catch up a little bit to me and so that the swath would be easier to make nice and smooth. The swath has continued to stay smooth today, which is nice. And you guys would have just seen a clip of me cleaning out the rads and the air filter in the swather. It's actually the first year that I've been taught to do that. I don't know, somebody else usually just did it for me in years previous because I just didn't know how, but it's actually really easy. You just take the air hose with a little attachment and then you just blow it all out and then it's clean, and that just keeps the air quality here in the cab better and it keeps the engine from overheating. Because if that air filter and the rads and stuff, they get full of junk, the air conditioning is actually not going to work as well as it should. And I would like to do everything possible to make sure that it is in fact working, because it gets really hot in this cab if you do not have AC, and it sucks. We actually got this from I think it was Moody's, and we did a demo with it first and the AC didn't work when we demoed it, and I was the one cutting it. It was horrific to say the least. I had to cut with the door open, so it was really noisy, and it was one of those like plus 28, plus 30 days, and the heat from the machine, depending on the wind, will go right back into the cab. So it was just, you feel like you're cooking from the inside out. So I feel very obligated to make sure that that rad gets blown out at least every other day, if not every day. I grease the machine as well, and then we're back out here again. So I guess now is as good a time as any to answer a couple of questions that I have read quite a few times. Like, they've been recurring questions on the comment section of my YouTube channel. And one of them is, why don't you have a dog? And to be completely honest, I love and adore every single animal, mostly, on this earth. But I'm just not a dog person at heart. I've always really loved cats. And for me, there have been a couple of traumatic experiences in my life that have really just not allowed for me to wholeheartedly love dogs. And that is because my parents have German Wirehair Pointers, which is a hunting breed of dog. And I have had a couple of instances, and obviously this is nobody's fault. The dogs are bred to do what they do, and you can't really get mad at them for doing what they're supposed to do. But there have been a couple of instances in my life where I have watched those hunting dogs chase the ever-living life out of those cats until a cat gets up a tree, and it's usually my cat. Actually, there was an instance 2 years ago where one of the dogs started chasing Fritz, and I was in flip-flops, and I was taking off my shoes, and I was throwing it at the dog and missing, of course, and screaming pretty loudly to try and get my cat to run away from the dog, and he did. But the dogs are faster, they are stronger, and they've got that instinct to hunt because they're hunting dogs. So for me, my personal experience with dogs has not been great, because there have been a few instances where I have had to watch and, you know, see them in a situation, my cats, see them in a situation where they could have possibly been killed. And so that's always just kind of put me off of dogs. I am planning on getting a dog possibly end of this year or sometime next year, and I would really love to get a herding breed of dog so that I can work with my goats with the dog. But that's why I just haven't had a dog myself up until this point. And it's also because my parents have dogs, and I have a lot of animals already. I have Fritz, my cat, I have bunnies, I have the goats, I have the horses, and I've got a couple of pet calves and cows as well. So it's a lot of work to take care of all of these animals, and to add a dog to the mix at some point. Like, I graduated university a couple of years ago, and before university I was in high school. So to have all of these animals and all of this responsibility when you're not even around to take care of all of these animals all the time, and then add a dog into it, just doesn't work. So it's just never really worked out for me to get a dog, and up until now I've never really wanted a dog for that reason, and for the reason I just explained. And the other question that I see a lot is, why do you have these goats? I feel that I can have goats if I want goats, and I don't need to be questioned, but the goal at the end of the day is for me to have a large herd of goats. However many they decide to make is however large the herd will get. But I would eventually like to start a meat goat herd where I'll have a couple of registered and like good quality, good conformation goats, and that's kind of what I'm starting off with now. And then I would like to maybe show some of the ones that end up being really good. We'll see how that goes. But I would also like to breed enough goats to be a contender in the meat goat market. So I'd like to do a registered and also a commercial herd eventually. So that's the goal. I would like my herd to grow as much as possible right now, so I'm not really going to be selling anything unless there's an opportunity where a buck that's still pretty good quality can go to a breeding home and be a herd sire in a different herd. But I'm still learning and trying to figure out how all of it works, because I've still not had goats for even a year yet. My first goats, I'm pretty sure I got in October. And so I'm learning, and I've been getting advice from anybody that I've bought goats from, and I'm trying to figure out and test what the best course of action would be. So obviously any of the goats that I buy now or breed at this point, not going to be eaten. That's going to be way in the future. Right now I'm trying to grow my herd, and the goats that I'm getting right now are intended to stay so that I can grow my herd. So right now it's kind of a hobby, but the goal is to grow it to the point where it can be a good business venture for myself when I have my own place, like my own farm. So that's why I have the goats. It is day 5 of cutting. I skipped yesterday because nothing happened yesterday except for cutting, and nothing went wrong. But the day before yesterday, the chopper actually lost its auger. So we had to stop for like maybe half an hour, I think. Not much more. It wasn't that big of a setback. And so far today, it's like 7:30 now, I think. Yeah, 7:23. And yeah, so it's been going pretty okay. Long days, but we're getting the feed off the field, so that's the most important thing. Listening to a bunch of audiobooks, currently listening to Pride and Prejudice because I love the Regency era and all those kinds of books and movies and whatnot too. So actually getting a chance to read, or rather listen to books being read that I haven't had the chance to read, and I'm, really loving it. So I'm having a great time here on the Swather, just listening to audiobooks and cutting and making feed. So I cannot complain. I think I'm gonna end the video here on day 5 of silaging, and then hopefully the next couple of days go just as smoothly. If not, you guys will hear about it. So thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe, and follow the Instagram and the Facebook, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.